Verhoeven list.
And we're live.
I'm actually recording.
All right. You're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Colin.
And I'm Nathan.
And we are currently watching network television because me and Nathan do not watch network television. We are watching the first season of The Blacklist, which first aired in 2013. We are watching season 2 of The Mentalist, which first aired in 2009. And we're watching season 2 of Miami Vice, which first aired in 1985. I know, like, on our intro, it says like we're kind of supposed to be doing comparing these and finding, is this artistic value or not. But really, with our standard show right now, we're kind of just doing these as first watches and our reaction to them. So
Yeah.
we found that's kind of like what we kind of gone into, especially because if we do deep dive on the episodes, we would ruin a lot of things for ourselves. So these are more first reaction things. So if you want our deep dives, we have our special edition episodes where we cover movies, and there we do deep dives and, you know, watch tons of YouTube videos and read the books they're based on, things like that. So.
Yeah, I think especially on this show with Miami Vice, there's a lot of like cultural anthropology mining going on there, because that is almost from a different world at this point. Like,
Yeah.
it's but as far as like artistic merit, it's like, well, this is Michael Mann. This is why he became Michael Mann. The other shows are just like, oh, what are contemporary shows that people are watching, and are they good or not?
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as like drawing deep meaning, I mean, our first couple episodes, I did that.
Yeah.
It's like 5 hours worth of homework for one episode.
Yeah.
And I believe if we had legions of followers, then maybe, but as it stands. But Verhoeven it was always like pop culture into art.
Yeah. Is it pop? Is it art, or is it just is it intentional art, or is it just pure mistakes?
Yeah.
A happy accident. But hey, to start with The Blacklist, we have season 1, episode 17, Ivan, number 88. Another title that is purely a misdirect.
Yeah. Has nothing to do with nothing. Oh, there's a guy named went by the hacker name Ivan, but
yeah. But if like the name of your episode is the guy in the blacklist and why he's bad and why we should catch him, and then like the whole episode's not about that guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's fun. It's a naming convention, whatever. Originally aired 8 March.
This is a cram episode. It had one thing, but really the stuff you're interested in is the Elizabeth and her husband story.
Yeah.
With this peripheral stuff going on.
Originally aired March 24th, 2014, NBC Monday. Liz investigates the disappearance of Jolene. The team hunts a young boy posing as Ivan, the infamous hacker. Showrunner John Bokenkamp, written by J.R. Ortsey and Amanda Kate Schumann, directed by Randy Zisk. We start. Well, I wrote it's a night office, but then he's like immediately outside and it's sun, so I guess maybe it's just a secluded office in the interior of some building to be secret, because that's what it's supposed to be. He's being hacked, and so he's like pulling cords and hitting levers and trying to separate it from the internet.
It's like he's trying to shut down a nuclear reactor or something.
And then he goes outside and it's daytime. He's going on he's on a phone. He says he needs to go to the backup site, and he throws the phone away.
Yeah, just throws it right in the trash.
Which is like is like a fun thing. It's like fun. It's a fun, mysterious thing up front. It's like, ooh, what's this? And then it's like, oh, he's a government employee. Why is he throwing away his phone? He's not some secret. He is a secret guy, but he's not really that. I don't know, but
well, and it's become such a trope in movies, like his even murder movies and stuff. And I mean, now more it's like take out the SIM card every time you make a phone call and crush it. Like we've seen that a lot too.
Yeah.
But it's been done so much. If you actually saw someone doing that, you would follow them. Like, oh, he threw his phone in the trash. What's going on? We're on the mystery team now. We're gonna find out.
I've actually done that once in my life. I've thrown a phone away. As far as going to boot camp, because I just heard all like a bunch of like scare stories about what they do, like depending on like what you have in your pockets when you go in there. So I basically went in with just my wallet and ID. And
Yeah.
I threw broke and threw the phone away at the hotel before I got sent over to boot camp. And then when I got there, and after I got through that, I was like, oh, I guess I didn't need to do that. Oh well, I was gonna get a better phone anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally had like a $20 phone, so it wasn't a problem. So
Yeah.
wasn't even a touch screen. It was like one of the old flip phones,
Ah, the old flip phones.
which is why I have a new flip phone.
New kind of flip phone.
He's being tracked by Ivan because Ivan pops up in Russian Cyrillic alphabet on the background of the screens. Although, like, even the description says this isn't Ivan. It even gives away, like, when I was looking up the info for an Internet Movie Database, it has a picture of the kid in it. So it's like the whole Ivan misdirect is like already ruined immediately for me, but that's fine, whatever. And then Ivan somehow, or this kid somehow makes an airbag go off in a car, which is impossible unless he literally went in and changed things with the car. You
I
cannot.
think he did, didn't he? Didn't they find like something chip soldered into the
Well, they
car
said
control?
they have a ROM like checking the ECU, and it's like he did something to it, but I don't think they said he changed anything out. But I mean,
Oh, okay. I
they
thought when he looked at it, he's like he did something to it. It's like, oh yeah, he soldered something in it or something. Because yeah, I know you can't do that too.
yeah,
Especially couldn't do it back then. Maybe now, but trust me,
it's
Ford Tauruses from the late '90s were not like Wi-Fi capable. So
yeah, yeah.
I know that for a fact.
um, but yeah, the airbag goes off, and then the guy gets in a car wreck and dies anyway. The airbag deployed, so it couldn't deploy again. So obviously,
Yeah,
he steals the laptop from the guy, and then I think we go to credits. Um, we come back. We have Red and Dembe meet with Mr. Kaplan in the woods. They find Cowboy and Jolene just buried there. Um,
how I don't know.
yeah, he's just suspicious, so they got him. Mr. Kaplan's magic, so
Yeah,
she can do whatever she wants.
because even Red is like, you're like a bloodhound looking for, It's like, how could she possibly have found those bodies? But whatever.
And I'm not, and like I can't remember. Did Red just ask her to just disappear them again, or are they gonna do something with the bodies?
I think she said to I think he said to disappear them.
Okay. And then we have Tom and Liz. They seem happy for a moment. Then a detective shows up to ask questions about the missing Jolene.
Yeah.
And then we find out, and I think we're back at the post office, and we learn that Nathan Platt is the now dead IT guy, and then Red speaks of Ivan. But he makes a point that Ivan usually just harasses Russia. He doesn't operate in the U.S.
Yeah.
And so like he must be really desperate if he's here. So, and then this also when they go to the car and Aram's looking up the into the car ECU, and he finds like an Ivan calling card left in the code on the ECU somehow. And then they find an empty RF blocking suitcase, and then the NSA show up. Cut to credits. Or commercial. And then Cooper shows up to like straighten things up, and then they're all the NSA is all mad because there's like classified tech in the wind. They call it Project Skeleton Key, and it's basically like a tech bomb. it's like a EMP, but it's just purely code that just shuts down whole cities.
It's like, oh, somebody watched Sneakers before they wrote this. It's the C-Tech astronomy device from Sneakers. It's like,
okay.
I can break into anything and do anything, and it's like, oh wow, that's interesting. From a movie from the early '90s, it's like, oh, it's going to talk about that again.
And they sort of do a similar thing in the Live Free or Die Hard.
Yeah.
which that movie was based on a Wired article. As like, you know, because this is the thing about like the Die Hard franchises, almost every one of them except for the last one is based on a previous thing that wasn't meant to be Die Hard.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, the first one's based on it's essentially the Die Hard movie, but the book's slightly different, or you know, mostly different from the movie we got, especially with characters and all that stuff different. The second movie was based on a tense novel about the airport, and they converted it into Die Hard 2. And the third one was a screenplay called Simon Says that they converted into Die Hard with a Vengeance. So, let's see. Oh yeah. They're at like Red's like I don't know like basement or work area, and he's like building some contraption.
Yeah.
And so they hop over to Minsk, Belarus to go after Ivan. Red talks to Ivan, and then there's cops show up, and so Red helps him escape and extorts him for like $8 million.
Then shoots Tom in a ruse on the way out the back.
Yeah, he shoots Wrestler.
Wrestler, yeah.
Is that his first name?
I don't know. For some reason, Tom came to mind.
I jump around with like whose first names, and I usually like end up calling everybody by their last name. But then like when you have with Liz and Tom, because their last names both now I'm just forgetting their last name.
Keen.
Yeah, Keen. Yeah, because I used to call her like Agent Keen the whole time. It was like, well, now there's two Keens, so we got to call them by their first name. And then call what is Red? Because maybe it's Reddington, but Red is I can't remember his first name either.
Raymond.
Raymond. Okay.
And Donald is Wrestler's first name.
Oh yeah.
Tom is his wife, or is her Keen's husband.
Yeah. So you see Wrestler get shot and he's full of blood, but obviously this is a ruse, and it is.
And Belarus looks a lot like America. Except for one European police car that pulls up out front with the lights on.
Well, I mean, at least they're not doing bad CGI.
yeah, absolutely. It's like it's not that important. An interior shot at some fancy restaurant that makes like really nice Russian food. And that's all that matters.
And we come back to we're at Tom and Liz's place, and Liz is looking up the VICAP record for the Violent Criminal Apprehension Database or something. And it's the record of Jolene, which is the same one that Red looks at in the General Ludd episode.
Okay. I thought that looked familiar.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, wait, was that her? Because, like, I remember we got that, like, that thing got pulled up, and I was speculating that was, like, his real daughter or something, but not the case. Because he got numbers from the Wulan guy, and that led to that, and so that's Jolene, and now she's dead, so that's all. And then, but also we have the kind of ironic that Liz feels guilty that Jolene might be her fault somehow.
Yeah,
like she's here because of her, not Tom. It was also Red talks to Ivan, and he's basically assured that like he's not doing this stuff right now, and so he's being framed by someone else. The hacker got a list of like secret government projects, and he even like raised the Social Security payments for a lady, which gives him away because they go interview her.
It's his grandma.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the hacker's some high school student who is like just some savant or something. I don't know, or just reckless.
Well, he's a weirdo. He has a weird obsession with this girl.
Yeah.
Which that plays out in one of the creepiest like stalker scenes in the school lunchroom I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
Because he's eating the same food as her at the same time.
He just mirrors her, and it's like, oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, that's like next level nuts.
And then you find out he's using like this secret tech to basically spy on her extra hard.
Yeah.
Gets her emails, her texts, gets video somehow, in the house and all that stuff. It's like, crazy.
Yeah.
Because you think for a moment, it's like, oh, he gave his grandma more money. That's kind of fun. And then he just turns up to be a horrible person.
Yeah, he's just the worst combination of weird tech genius slash stalker nutcase who it's like, if you have the intelligence to do all that, you can find someone to date. Like,
Liz checks out the address of Tom's tactical garage.
yeah, she doesn't know that's what it is, and Tom's on the phone in the tactical garage.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, really? What did you find? And she gives the address, and he's like, oh, that sounds interesting. And he's like taking all those string diagrams with her
Yeah.
pictures all over it off the wall quickly. It's a tense scene.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Even though like very little is done, but like how it's very effective. Like that was like this tense like where she's like chasing him around. They just have like tarps just hanging, and they have this moment where like Tom is like just trying to guess when she's gonna move, and he basically moves at the exact moment she does, so he's like isn't seen, and it's very simple but it's very effective.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of cool. It's
And then she like goes back into the warehouse. He's like hiding behind a door, and then he kind of like hits her with the door, and then without her seeing him, like sucker punches her in the face and runs away.
yeah, because it was a question in my mind, like, did he see her, and what's their next encounter going to be like? But
Yeah.
apparently, she did not.
Then we see like Tom get on the payphone. He's like checking in with his handler, but like in a weird way. It's acting like he's like checking his bank account balance or whatever, but he's checking in with Berlin, which like you said, like Berlin might just be a phrase, not actually in Berlin.
Yeah.
But that's also like because in the previous couple episodes, like a point of contention is that like he hasn't checked in a while, so this is his first check in and for like however long or whatever. Hacker guy is Harrison Lee. He's just some creepy tech guy. He grabs a skeleton key as the FBI is like coming into the school to get him, and he creates a bunch of disturbances.
Yeah, like the alarm goes off to evacuate.
Yeah. And so that masks his escape. And then we have a scene where Liz is asking Red about Jolene. But he's not really. He's being evasive, and like he makes the point like he's like, I've never lied to you. And I'm like, that has to be not true.
I mean, maybe he's never like told a bold-faced lie to her.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm thinking. It's like I haven't directly told you a falsehood that didn't have some intent behind it or whatever. But I'm like, so I'm not gonna go back and review everything he said to Liz. Like, see, he never lied. But yeah, it's the thing you got now. It's like a thing I'm like looking for in every Red scene. It's like, what are the things he's not saying?
Yeah. How is he being deceptive in an intellectual way?
Yeah. The Harrison's using the NSA tech to stalk a girl whose dad runs the skeleton key program. He fakes text from her friend and like makes the city. It's like he created a blackout, but it was making like the city light up as like a pathway to lead her to him.
Yeah, this is Washington D.C. we're talking about here. It's like, can't believe like this kid is that deranged where he thinks, yeah, this is gonna pass muster.
Yeah, she's gonna be so impressed. Yeah, he like leads her down to a subway, and then she's just immediately worried. It's rightfully so.
Then he introduces himself, and he's thinking she's gonna fall in love, and she's like, "What's wrong with you? It's like, are you crazy?"
Yeah. And then Abby runs and just kind of he tries to like grab her arm, and she awkwardly falls and hits her head. So he runs thinking he like killed her or something. And then like he's like getting away in a train, and Liz like, I guess this is like kind of it's an okay special effect, but it kind of looked like the glass looked like liquid.
Yeah.
But it's fine, whatever. She like shoots a window open, jumps through it.
On a moving subway car.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they put some blood on her. It's like, yeah, that wasn't without struggle.
Yeah.
um, and then she's talking down Harrison and tries to get him to stop the train before it crashes. Although, like, we have like several different points of views of them like tracking the train and like all this other stuff, and it's like it's gonna crash. There's no way, and then it just stops. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because they're all yeah, because he just wants to run to the end of the line at full blast.
Yeah, it's like it's his suicide.
Yeah.
Um, and then we have like kind of like that's just kind of it for the episode. So we have the wrap up, and so we have Liz tries to invite Wrestler to dinner, and he tells her she doesn't need to like feel guilty that she has someone to go home to.
Yeah.
Which is this is more along the line of them getting closer together. I don't know if they're going to do anything with that, but we're going to get her apart from Tom, so she's got to get.
Yeah, we know that Tom's actually evil now. It's not like speculation. So,
and then Liz gets some evidence photos at home when she's like Tom's making dinner, and we forgot. She gives him some weird hippo to take to class, and then when they see there's evidence photo at Tom's tactical warehouse, the hippo's in the trash, and sees it, and then she immediately puts everything together. And then she's like, and then Tom's asking like weirdly like, did you see him? And she's like, no. So, so now everybody's weird in the scene.
Yeah, everyone's like awkward and strange.
Can't tell the truth now. Oh no, I don't know what my lying face looks like, so I'm just gonna go with my emotionless reciting words face.
Yeah. When in doubt, look confused. Which actually does work.
Yeah. And then Liz goes and meets with Red about Tom. Red's contraption he was building is a music box that gives Liz memories of the fire she was when she was a kid, but it was also like something her father played for her when like told her everything was going to be okay. And so basically it's not a direct confirmation that Red is her father, but it's heavily implied.
Yeah, it's like he knows things, and of course she just like lays in his arms and kind of closes her eyes too while they're listening to this music box.
Yeah, well, she the thing she said that her father used to do is exactly what Red does here. So
yeah,
he like kisses the back of her head, said everything's gonna be okay, and it's not.
Far from okay.
But yeah, now everybody knows that Tom's a bad guy. They just don't know the specifics of his badness.
Yeah, why he's a bad guy and why he's after her, and
yeah,
I assume it has something to do with Reddington. I assume he's her father, and these are the Russians or some other group trying to get back at him through to Tom and his daughter. But I'm just, I mean, you never know on this show. It's always be something weird.
Because like my assumption is that the Alan Alda group isn't associated with Tom.
No, I never thought that.
I mean, that would be convenient, but I don't. So I think I think this is a separate group that's also after Red somehow.
Yeah. The Alan Alda group is more interested in like direct power and stuff. They're not interested in playing psychological games with people. They seem more like, yeah, we just want power and we don't care how we get it and who has to die. So yeah, this is an okay episode.
Yeah, it was fine.
It was it was development of the story that actually interests us with a side story going on with
that was easily disposable.
Yeah, with a main character that is a genius and also an idiot at the same time. It's like, I did this because I love this girl. It's like, you're going to die. Now that you know that the government has this thing and you've used it, like they're just going to kill you. I mean, they didn't say that, but you're going to go under some kind of rendition to a black site because this isn't something where you're doing like a couple years in juvie. Like you're a genius hacker with serial killer motivations romantically. It's like they're not just going to let you go with some provocation.
We can't try him as minor, so we need to get Red and just put a bullet in the back of his head.
Yeah. We can't try him as a minor, but we can take him to a black site and torture him to death. There's no like legal stuff around that. I mean, there is, but nobody pays attention to it because because this is a very, remember, this is the darkest universe of like spies and intrigue, and it's like
Yeah.
the most extreme interpretation of, because what really goes on in the real world, while sometimes being dangerous and weird, is also very boring. Usually it involves money. Almost nobody betrays anyone for principles or beliefs. It's just like, how much money can you give me? And sometimes it's even not large sums of money. I mean, it's like, yeah, I can have a beach house. It's like, oh, you're going to betray your country so you can have, you know, a hunting lodge somewhere. Not even a good one, just a little one. But yeah,
Also,
but it
this
makes,
universe, it's basically built up that like all our bureaucracies, like why they're slow moving and like seem to be ineffectual at affecting change is because that's all facade for the secret dark stuff in the background that they have
yeah,
to keep secret.
it's all because the star chamber is running everything or whatever. Some nexus of power that has incomprehensible and almost suicidal motives. Um, but it's exciting, you know.
Yeah,
It's more exciting than just like, oh, it's just greed or sex
yeah.
or both, you know.
For our second show, we have The Mentalist, Season 2, Episode 17, The Red Box. Original air date April 1st, 2010. Have no idea if that's if that's any special thing. Like, this is our April Fool's episode.
Yeah,
I doubt it. I don't remember anything being like that. While the team investigate the murder of an English tutor who stole a valuable artifact from a British museum, the new boss comes in and lays down the law. Showrunner Bruno Heller, written by John Mankiewicz, and directed by Chris Long. So yeah, we
yeah.
start out with what's that?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, no.
We start out with the well, I should specifically Lisbon is worried about the new boss coming in. Her name's Madeline Hightower. Which I find like anytime you use Hightower for like law enforcement, like it's like, are we gonna compare this to Police Academy?
Yeah,
She's just gonna be into really big guns. um, but yeah, we go to the crime scene, and Rigsby's greeted by Vic Bandino, who's like he's like a former cop that worked with Rigsby in San Diego, but now he's like a private consultant security guy for just a rich. I'm not sure if it's like a homeowners association or if he just works for this one rich guy.
yeah. I'm not sure.
um,
Seems like it seems like he's probably just this one guy because of the kind of house they had.
yeah, well, yeah, they seem to have like more of a compound than just one house, but
Yeah,
that's also a whole thing I don't understand. Like a pool house, like what the hell is that? It's like, well, like what is like is it just like a house next to a pool? Is the pool inside the house and they just have all this stuff around it? Like I don't know. That's just a big rich person thing, but it's also
yeah.
I don't know. It's like
The
another.
last pool that I had at my house, I had to put up with stilts. So. And the pool house was my house. So.
um, you ever see those like people that are like so rich that like when their kids like feel like, you know, like I need a bit more freedom, they'll just build a second house on their property.
Yeah, the kid's house. Yeah. I always knew someone was rich when you like, oh, here's my number. Yeah, that's like it's listed in the phone book as the kid's line. Remember, I mean that's not a thing anymore, but
Yeah.
back then you looked up somebody's name and it says, yeah, this is so and so, this is the house number, but this is the kid's number. It's like I knew two people like that, and it's because yeah, they had their own phone in their own part of the house, and of course it was a house where nothing but went on, but like debauched sex and drug use where the kids lived, and I witnessed it. And it's like, yeah, okay, this is, I guess, is what rich people do. It's like I'd just be happy, like, look at this kitchen, holy crap, is that a Wolf stove? Yeah, mom never cooks. It's like that's a $10,000 stove, and this was in 90s money. It's like Jesus. Yeah, I'm just gonna go use drugs and help my girlfriend. It's like I'm gonna hang out in this house. Jeez, wow, is that a hot tub in a bedroom? Who does that?
Yeah, we're like I don't know, like at the time middle class, but like, you know, I had some, you know, poor single parent friends who like they come over to my house and they're amazed by everything. It's like, oh wow, you got a Sega Genesis and there's like a black and white TV in your room. Like, yeah, and one of the controllers are broken. It's like, yeah, that's what we got. It's like, no, this is amazing. And then I had a friend who his dad was a surgeon and his mom was an orthodontist, so they were loaded.
Yeah.
I remember going to their house, and that was like mid 90s or early 90s, and you know they had one of those freezers with the you could dispense the ice cubes like into the cup.
Yeah.
Like now, like pretty much every new refrigerator has that, but back then it's like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Yep. I knew people like that. I mean, people that had like Ferraris in a garage, like not new ones, but you know, just a like yellow Ferrari. I was like, oh, that's awesome. It's like, yeah, I know where the keys are. It's like, no. I just want to look at it. Oh, don't be a pussy. Like, no, this is like $100,000 car. Then, so you want to sit in it? No, I just think it looks cool. Dad hates it. It's like, what? Okay, all right.
So anyways, yeah, so there's a dead body in this rich guy's house named Mr. Banks. I think it's Hudson Banks. I'm just gonna call him Banks for the rest of it.
Yeah. I'm gonna call him Man Cow because that's who I thought it was at first. Is that Man Cow?
He's just some rich asshole that like I don't know, like is involved in like photography or something.
Yeah, he takes pictures of people, but it's always his wife.
Yeah.
Who's like ugly beautiful. Like she's got one of those women with those faces where it's like it's very distinct looking, but it's really not that she's ugly at all. But when she opens her mouth and talks, you're like, oh yeah, okay, this obviously you're not using God's gifts very well, because when you open your mouth, it's like, oh, you're just a horrible human being.
Very entitled, and probably at the tail end of her entitlement period, where people give her things for being entitled.
Yeah.
James Smithson is the body. He's a tutor. There's a gunshot wound. Jane immediately thinks the tutor's some sort of fraud, and then he finds like a red box under the bed, and then the body just comes to for a moment, like he.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Yeah. Like, oh, it's not a murder investigation. Jane thinks something valuable was in the red box. We cut to commercial when he wakes up, and then we come back, and he's being taken away. And I forget who he's talking to, but they're just like, yeah, he's brain dead. So, yeah, this is a murder investigation because he's not coming back to life because his brain was out of oxygen for, like, hours.
Yeah. I was wondering that myself. It's like, wait a minute. There's been people like, oh, he's dead, and people have shown up as like, this guy's brain is just cooked, and it's like, oh yeah, it was okay.
They said something like, you know, about the body getting like a last minute electrical shock that restarted his heart, but like
it's called Lazarus syndrome.
Yeah, that's what they said. So
I didn't even look it up. It's like,
yeah, I did.
Don't care.
Well, sometimes for the show, like instead of like doing like, it's hard to go like deep analysis without getting ruined about stuff. Like sometimes like just going on, we'll look out for the stuff is like, is that true or not? And that will be the like, you know, bit of trivia for the episode. Lisbon interviews the kid because the kid found the body. The mom's not so forthcoming, but she's not actually her mom, or she's a stepmom, or she says she's not her mom. We never get the full thing of that. But yeah, Van Pelt finds out that James is a fraud. And so now Bandino is looking suspicious because like he's supposed to be a former like competent cop. So he how can he be so bad on his background check? But that's a plot point for later on.
Yeah, that actually did pay off, and I'm glad because I was like, just can't leave that hanging.
Cho and Jane interview like another parent that this guy's tutored for, and Jane makes her tea in her kitchen and then just like sprays air freshener into the tea.
Yeah, I was wondering like, where's this going? Because it was lemon pledge.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't say that. It said lemon cleaner because they probably didn't want to pay for the rights. But yeah, you knew what it was.
And this is because Jane spotted the and the guys the James is living in a pool house and he had like all this lemon tea like all over the place. So
Yeah.
he's like he picks up on something like, oh, this lady was having an affair with him. He made tea for her, so she's gonna emotionally react to this tea. So he made sure that the smell was so powerful that she would emotionally react and betray herself. And then she goes to like drink the tea, and he's like, "No, you don't want to do
Yeah, don't do that.
that." Which at this point doesn't really go anywhere. It's just kind of a fun scene.
Yeah, it's just a fun scene. It's like, yeah, I was sleeping with him. It's like, okay, and then she's like the murderer. It's no, she just made this woman uncomfortable in her living room in front of Cho, who's of course
Yeah,
just deadpan the whole time.
yeah. And then Van Pelt's kind of playing head games with Rigsby over a stripper story.
Yeah,
That what's his name? Bandino tells, or Vic.
yeah,
Um, yeah. Banks some art guy or takes pictures and somehow has millions of dollars. No idea. Unless he's just old money, because that's kind of a.
no,
Seems
they
like
said
people.
he was. It's like because he's remember this guy. The reason the CBI was there was because he called his friends in the state and said, "I want the best people."
Oh.
And then Jane was immediately like hates this guy. He's some kind of poser asshole, which he is,
Yeah.
and starts antagonizing him immediately. And Lisbon gets calls and stuff. And plus, she's got a new boss she's worried about too.
Yeah. He insults him in all his relationships. It's like, what do you actually? What's all this actually really about?
Oh, he
uh,
was saying really bad stuff. It's like, so do you just watch while other men have sex with? Like he was really saying terrible stuff to this guy,
yeah.
trying to get a reaction out of him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is standard Jane stuff. Insult the person who might be a killer or is grieving. You just insult them to see what like really comes out.
Yeah, yeah, because Jane's just a psychopath of just an emotional vampire. Not really. He doesn't feed off of it. He's just like, oh, that piqued my curiosity.
Yeah. Then they leave, and the guy's mad, and then Lisbon's trying to say like, "Hey, be easy about this. This guy has connections." And then as they're leaving, they Jane picks up. They have like a tail following them. And it's some British guy, Francis Slocum, who says he's from Scotland Yard.
Well, first he. It was funny because Jane figures out they're being followed, and so as they Lisbon drives into a cul-de-sac at like 90 miles an hour in a van for some reason. Or are they driving an SUV then? I don't know.
Suburban.
There's a van used a lot in this episode.
Yeah,
But
they do have a van, but this one I'm pretty sure it was a Suburban.
and then they pull it over, and this guy's doing like a what would you say, like a Woody Guthrie impression or some kind of weird like Western accent.
Yeah,
Jane immediately is like, "That's a bad accent. You're doing that wrong. You've got it. You can't." I don't know what he said. It's like you got to watch your glottal stops or whatever.
yeah. Which
And
feels which
which I was thinking is like, yeah, you and half the cast of this show actually had
yeah.
to do that because you're Australian and Rigsby or
Yeah,
Rigsby's
Rigsby's like Scottish or something.
it's got because his real name's weird. It's like Owain something. Or,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's like, oh yeah, half the cast of this show is actually has to fake their accent the whole time.
Yeah, I thought that was funny because like I imagine like the line he gives there about why his American accent is bad is what like the people that are training them to do an American accent is told him during like production.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is actual real life Simon Baker. Like I had to learn that too because it's very weird when you see him interviewed for any of the YouTube research I do, and it's like, oh yeah, he totally has an Australian, like a really thick Australian accent too. And it's like that's weird that he can just switch back and forth like that. Because it's strange when you see a guy who you associate with one thing who looks exactly like that guy, and he's talking. It was just like what was it, The Walking Dead? The guy who
Yeah,
played the sheriff. Remember they did the first press with that,
yeah.
and it's like, oh, this guy's. Oh, we didn't know he was from British. Wow. So yeah, that was kind of fun to see that. It's like, yeah, you're speaking from experience there.
Which Christian Bale does the other thing that's like kind of fun, where he interviews in the accent of his character.
Yeah, I always think of Christian Bale as an American for some reason. Actually, I'm not wrong to think that because technically was raised in both countries, but um, yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I guess he is a British actor. Yeah.
This is where we get back to CBI headquarters. This is where we meet Hightower, and she's having a talk with Lisbon, and she wants her to keep Jane in line, but like Hightower sees Jane as like the most valuable person there, and he's like, yeah, you're replaceable, Lisbon. We need Jane, and we need him to be in line too. So if he gets out of line, we're not getting rid of him. We're getting rid of you.
Yeah, so basically her new boss sucks and
Yeah.
she's kind of evil, manipulative person. I'm guessing she's probably connected to Red John in some way. I don't know.
Hmm.
Because she seems like, oh, all she's there to do is psychologically break the bond that Lisbon and
Well, she's breaking. By the end of it, she's breaking up the whole team.
yeah. So this is not how you lead
Yeah.
unless you have some ulterior motive. So it's like, oh, okay.
Well, they say she has like really like connections high up in like politically too. So it's I don't know where she came from before.
Yeah.
But you know, she's a cop, has high political connections, but yeah, she's getting in there and asserting her dominance. So.
Yeah, in the worst way possible. It's like, okay.
But you know, she shows off her value, but because apparently there was a problem because the banks guy has like political connections. He was the judge that's supposed to sign off on the search warrant for his house wasn't getting signed off on, and so Hightower just puts that through. So that shows like, you know, okay, she can help the team.
Yeah. What's her real reasons for helping?
Slocum shows up at James's hospital room. Of course, we find out his real name is Oliver. But I'll just keep calling him James. Jane anticipated, because everybody else is going to search the bank's house, but Jane is over at the hospital anticipating a Slocum to show up, and so he talks with him, and Slocum says that he's James's father, and I think he's a thief. I don't know.
Oh, he's a Scotland Yard detective.
Oh, is that true? Okay.
Yeah, he works in Special Branch.
Oh, okay. I thought that was all just some.
And also remember how he got knocked a cop out.
It took his gun.
Took his gun and left.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Okay, I thought that was all just a facade. I thought he was actually just some thief.
No, he's basically a Ronin Scotland Yard, because he's not there on behalf of Scotland Yard.
Yeah,
he's there on behalf of his son, but he can say he is technically part of Scotland Yard. But yeah, he's running around America knocking out cops and stealing their guns, and which is kind of interesting how it all wraps up for him. It's like, well, no, just leave the country and it's all good.
Yeah, I always thought, like, I was thinking because in you know, Blacklist isn't a reality, but they have the FBI going all over the world.
Yeah,
which is true. They do have that.
Yeah,
in so much there's multiple FBI shows, I believe, on CBS, maybe they're ABC. They have an FBI International that is about FBI working. And the biggest movie I know about that is The Kingdom, because that's like a bomb threat that's being investigated by the FBI.
I mean, the FBI works in Europe through Interpol, and then like they work in other countries, like the Kingdom. They investigate when like embassies or people are attacked.
Yeah,
like U.S. citizens are attacked. That's how they work through that. I don't think they just show up and just start shooting people. But it's exciting if it's like, wow, that's the CIA does that. I mean, that does happen, but it's not usually the FBI.
But I made me think, it was like they should just get a BBC run series about like Scotland Yard, but they have something very specific and they have to do investigations in America.
Special branch. Super secret branch.
Like there's something that only they can do, and they go all over the world to do it.
Well, see, because we like divide it up, because I don't know which is which, because they seem interchangeable, and I hear it and I never follow up on what it is. Like, because we have the CIA, that's International Intelligence Gathering. The CIA technically by law cannot operate within the borders of America. If they do, they have to follow the laws. but that's what the FBI does domestically.
Yeah.
That's like the Americans, like those guys were FBI, U.S. based counterintelligence. Like that's who they worked with. Now in England or UK, they have MI5 and MI6. One is external and one is internal.
Okay.
But I don't know which is which and how it works, and I can't put it all together. Because then you also special branch in Scotland Yard is a real thing, and that always, like, those guys are always in when like foreigners get murdered and stuff like that. So it's a weird combination of, I think special branch is actually law enforcement for people that commit crimes in the UK, and then MI5 or MI6 helps with like support information to them about, because it's always involves terrorists and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, we like, everyone kind of divides it up in its own way, and but UK probably needs that because that's much more an international country than we are. So because you think of all the people that are passed through that country all the time. So yeah, it sort of makes sense, but I don't really like investigate it too closely. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, this works for the story, whatever. MI5, MI6, I don't know the difference.
See here. Oh yeah, no. Oh, so, yeah, the James. Well, Slocum says that James didn't steal the ring, or at least he didn't steal it as like an intentional act.
It was all a ruse or something.
I mean, he did steal a ring, but I don't know. Here he's trying to say like he was being like rebellious.
Yeah. And this guy is his real dad, but he said he was never there for him.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. It's like, why is this guy doing this? It's like, oh yeah, because that's really his son, but he was an absent father. It's never really explained why, but.
Well, there's like, basically actually said, because there's a moment where like Cho's like, does he have any living relatives? And they're like, we don't think so. It's like, all right, because we need to sign off in the body to get his organs sent out.
Yep.
Hightower talks with Jane and lets him know that like Lisbon is expendable, which I don't know if this is like Jane's building up a ruse in the background to get back at her for that. Because like if he fires Lisbon, Jane's not going to do this.
Yeah,
like he'll just go off on his own.
Yeah, because that's like his center at CBI. He's not going to work under people that are like that guy that just cut him off all the time.
Yeah.
And then tried to get him like put in prison for planting a bug in his office. Like that's who's going to replace Lisbon, someone like that, and he's not going to stick her. So it seems like an empty threat. Like, oh, okay, she's just messing with us to mess with us.
And then Mr. Banks admits to like buying a gun illegally, which is like they're looking for a .38 revolver, and there's a revolver in one of his pictures, and apparently he couldn't get it legally somehow, which I don't know, in California.
Well, first he tried to claim it was a prop.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh no, wait a minute, because then it turns out that the guy,
because like Bandino, was
acquired it.
Yeah. And then Lisbon like presents like Mr. Banks with like all his search histories, with like linking him to like this British museum theft, that they're looking for this ring that was like, apparently it was like some like what do you call that? A proposal ring? What's that called?
Egyptian something ring. I forget what it was.
Between, it was a Mark Antony and Cleopatra.
Yeah.
And then there's like this, and in the background there was a guy who mentions his name, Anglet, who's like the guy who's the fence essentially for all this stuff. And Slocum attacks Anglet, and then the CBI moves in and arrests all of them. Hightower gives Slocum a ticket back home and says she doesn't want to see him again.
Yeah.
Anglet's being questioned, but he's not. He's evasive. He's just waiting for his lawyer. Here we kind of see like Hightower, he's having some fun. It's like, yeah, let's run up his bill, his lawyer bill. So we'll just distract his lawyer before he actually gets in there. So yeah, that's how we'll get back at him. And then Jane sneaks in to talk to Anglet, and then Jane reveals the whole James like theft ring is like he steals the real ring, but he sells fakes to everybody, even though he has the real ring.
Yeah.
And so then that gets Jane, it gets Jane kind of in danger, because now he's putting Mr. Banks into danger because Anglet's apparently dangerous, so he's gonna go kill Banks because it's he got ripped off or something.
Well, whoever he sold that ring to is gonna like kill him. 'Cause apparently,
Yeah.
it's like bad people with
Yeah.
lots of money that want antiquities.
And they didn't really figure this out because then they just kind of cut to the end of it where Bandino runs out with a bag of money. So it's like, okay, this is all about him. He did it.
Yeah.
Then Anglet like hits him, and then CBI arrests them both. And then we find out that Bandino actually did do a background check on James, and he knew like he stole this ring, and so that's why he let him through because he wants in on this whole. Well,
Yeah.
I think he knows he has a ring, and then he creates this whole thing to make money by selling fake rings, and so it's really all about him. And then he killed him because he was gonna because James is gonna back out on it. And so yeah, ultimately it's Bandino did it. The former cop did it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I was saying that was it's like, okay, why did he do a bad background track? And it's like, okay, now that makes sense. He did that intentionally. So
Yeah.
but yeah, they just kind of wrap it up, and it's like, oh, okay. And then Hightower leaves the night saying that she's going to do something about Van Pelt and Rigsby, and then it's like, so now she's just fully dismantling this team that has their highest prosecution rate of anybody else in the CBI.
Yeah, like they're famous, like they're known throughout the state.
Yeah. Although Hightower says she's going to make like CBI the premier law enforcement in California, it's like, oh, finally they're not going to be bankrupt like every other law enforcement agency in here.
Yeah. They're just going to throw money at this now.
But it's something somebody evil would say. So
yeah, it's always
some evil boss that wants results and doesn't want to know how it's actually done, as long as they don't get complaints.
Yeah. Let the sausage factory run, just don't show me how it's made. Yeah, there's more to her though than I mean, I could be wrong, but I think she's operating on a different level.
Yeah,
about her.
I didn't see her like episode like number, so I don't actually know, but I would guess she's not here the rest of the series. So
yeah,
because we only got like 6 or 7 episodes left, so it's not a whole lot for. So she'll have to another bad thing will happen inside CBI, and she'll be because of her.
Yeah, they'll get like 3 more guys killed or something. We're still the best, but we're dealing with super Hannibal Lecter.
So yeah, the episode, it was all right. It was fine.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
didn't carry me away. But
well, yeah. You said we had good episodes last week, so every follow-up show this week kind of had a little more to live up to. So, and so for our third show, we have Miami Vice Season 2, Episode 17, Florence, Italy. Original air date February 14th, 1986, NBC Friday. Crockett and Tubbs take a Grand Prix race car driver, a Grand Prix race car driver after the body of a slain prostitute is thrown from a speeding car. Showrunner Michael Mann, written by Wilton Crawley and directed by John Nicolella. So yeah, at the time of the recording, in the show, there is a Miami GP, and at the time of this recording, there's a Formula One Miami GP going on. So that's what I was talking to Nathan off podcast last week about the weird occurrence that's happening between a almost 40-year-old show and current events. So
yeah.
Although the Miami GP in this episode is an IMSA race, so it's not Formula One, but yeah, it's not nothing. It's a popular race car series in America.
Oh yeah, and those are actually they look more. They remind me of like Le Mans cars or something.
Yeah, they're like
kind of cars.
They vaguely look like production cars, but they are prototype cars that have a lot of. They're built race cars. They're not street legal. Although the car in this episode that gets used in the first couple of scenes is essentially a street legal version of a race car that they make of an IMSA
It's called
car.
a Porsche 906.
Yep.
and it is a very rare and very expensive car. Looked it up just out of curiosity. One sold last month for $2 million. So yeah, it was a real car, like, and
Yeah.
and it was actually used in like real scenes. I was like, oh, that's crazy.
So we start out. There's a street full of call girls. They focus on Florence, who's dressed up as a schoolgirl.
Yeah.
There's a lady mad that they're working out in front of her deli. I mean, I assume it's a deli, but all it says is croissants, and all she talks about is croissants. But I don't think it's a croissant shop.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, it's like in the Miami Vice bright neon color theme.
yeah.
And it's like, this is the nicest place prostitutes have ever worked in. It looked like high end shopping, and
Yeah.
it was one of those cool like Miami Vice street scenes, where it's dark and gritty. But yeah,
Yeah. Florence gets into some Porsche. It's like the Porsche we're talking about, the Porsche 906 Carrera.
yep.
Um,
Hits her head getting in, doesn't close the door right.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. You could tell they probably had one night with this car, and yeah.
Tubbs and Crockett are like cruising around the strip, and we have the Fat Boys, the rap group, are selling weed, and Tubbs pulls out his badge.
Haven't heard that in a while.
Tubbs pulls out his badge and tells him to lose the marijuana, so he eats it, and then everyone's laughing at him. And that's their scene, so they're gone. And then Crockett's like racing down the street, and he scares Tubbs. Yeah, this is where they mention like, yeah, I can't believe there's going to be a race here in a few days. And then we have a trans lady looking for Florence.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, they did have a. Yeah, they had a.
Yeah, well, they do the joke where like they have a guy overdub her voice to show that she's trans, which is here it's played for laughs. Now, like here, like here's like, oh, this doesn't age well. Like, look how bad they're looking. It's like it's a trans person who's a prostitute. Like, what a bad look. Like, but for the '80s, just acknowledging that they exist and that they're worried about other people is actually like wildly progressive.
Yeah, I mean, she was actually like a redemptive, like she cared about like making sure the prostitutes were safe and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so it was like, yeah, I just hadn't heard that in ours. I didn't know Miami Vice ever did that. Yeah, but yeah, they do the thing where they overdub the voice deeper than mine. It's like, wait a minute, she doesn't talk like that anywhere else in the show, but okay.
Well, they do have like, because like Switek and Zito pick her up, but they call her Lewis, and with not modern day people like, their dead name or how horrible, but this is the '80s. I don't even think it's a name thing.
Well, remember what she said though when they named
Lewis is dead.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that concept must go back a ways.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like called the dead name or whatever. Yeah,
dead naming. Yeah, that's what it's called.
It's like, oh, okay, foreshadowing.
But yeah, then they see a Porsche. The Porsche runs a red light, and Crockett gives chase.
Of course.
Yeah, and they are wildly outmatched by this car. So.
Oh yeah.
The Porsche just dumps the dead body of Florence out on the ground and races away, and then Crockett and Tubbs stop for the body. And then then we cut to opening credits.
Yeah.
And we come back. I can't remember. I think they might talk to Castillo first. The next thing I note is that Crockett and Tubbs go and meet the mechanic Tommy to get a lead on the car because it's so exotic and specific. It's like she's gonna know about it.
Yeah, worst car to go commit a murder in.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you use like a Grand Marquis or something from that era where there's like 100,000 of them.
And then Crockett and Tubbs are looking for Danny Tepper, who owns the Porsche. So I think like the concept of this episode is pretty good. They rely on this guy who's not an actor. He's a real race car driver, and he's not a good actor.
As soon as I watched that interrogation scene, I was like, okay, I got to go look this up. This guy's here for a reason, because like I could do a better job than that. And I don't know how to act either. It's like this guy's obviously not an actor, and it's like, oh, he's a real race car driver. Okay.
Which I what's his? Do you have his name? His actual name?
His name is Danny Sullivan.
Yeah. And so like he won the IndyCar. He won the Indianapolis 500 like essentially like half a year before he did this episode. So he was a name at that point. And
Yeah.
he did go on to win like he was a champion in the kart series at least one time. So
Yeah.
he's a commendable racer, not a good actor.
And also, he worked with Red Bull to get a Formula One driver, an American Formula One driver, for the Red Bull team
Huh.
in the '90s. I mean,
Yeah.
he retired from racing in the '90s because he had a horrible accident at the Michigan Motor Speedway
Huh.
where he like crushed his pelvis, and he's like, "Yeah, we're not coming back from that." And but that was, he'd raced for like probably another 10 years after this show in different things.
Yeah, so they interviewed Danny, and he says the car was stolen, but he didn't know it was stolen because he's been driving a truck getting parts for the race all night.
Yeah.
Which makes it seem weird because it kind of seems like they're saying like he's like a poor, scrappy race car driver, but he also owns an incredibly rare and expensive car.
Yeah, owns a $2 million race car they only made 60 of. It's like,
But then Danny's dad shows up and he bails him out. Actually, his sponsor bails him out, but
yeah.
his dad arranged it. And then Crockett and Tubbs pose as sponsors at some party for the drivers. Tommy shows up at the party too, so she's going around. Because I thought like, oh, did they bring her in to like help out with this case? But no, she's just there because that's her like, that's the kind of people she deals with.
Yeah, she's an exotic car mechanic, so
Yeah.
she's just trying to drum up business. And she also judges one of the other women there. It's like, oh, she gives women back 50 years. She's just, what did they had a name for her? Driver diver or something.
Yeah, something like, yeah, she's basically like a driver groupie or
Yeah.
Actually probably the funniest and the worst way to what I've heard of it is people call them screwdrivers because that's what they do.
Yeah, that was the best part of that terrible Sylvester Stallone Formula One movie. Like, oh, that's good. This movie's starting off good. Now it's terrible, but that was, what was that called? Driven?
Yeah, Driven. Yeah. And I wrote down like, that's also like probably one of the well, there's probably been others, but this is a genuine Miami Vice whodunit.
Yeah,
because we don't do this Miami Vice like who actually killed the person, but here that's what they're trying to figure out. And I wrote down, is it the creepy sales guy Marty Worthington, because he just seems he's also like hiring prostitutes, so it's like, okay, well, he's in that place, so he might have beaten a prostitute.
That's the
death.
sponsor. That's the guy, the sponsor of all those. And he's the tackiest. I mean, this guy was just over the top acting.
Yeah,
like you want this guy's being obviously bad because he didn't have anything to do with it, but he seems like the prime suspect because it's like, oh, he's a creep. This guy's coked out of his mind all the time. In classic 80s coked out of your mind acting. I mean, I don't know if it's real or he's just playing a character. But,
yeah. Then we have an impromptu race at the parking garage. It's a motorcycle race between I think it's Frank and Danny. Yeah, Frank and Danny. Frank wins the race. This
Father and son.
Yeah. This is like, I don't. I mean, I hate to be critical. I don't know how to do it, but it's not a well shot race because they shoot it in a literally parking garage. So every camera angle you cut to, like a parking garage isn't different at every level. It looks the same at every level. So, and every time you cut to it, it looks like the same part of the race. Nothing looks different. There's nothing that seems like they're progressing, and then it ends.
It's silly. It was actually a dangerous scene because the roofs were pretty low. And these were both Kawasaki Ninja motorcycles. It was kind of a product placement, early form of product placement in a show.
What like is Kawasaki like? Are they like mythical at this time? Is that the bike to get?
It was a very popular sport bike, at that time. I mean, they had already cemented a name, but it was just cool to see people on a highly rated television like they're both driving these Ninja speed bikes. But yeah, I guess that was kind of dangerous to film the way they filmed it because the ceilings are very low in parking garages.
Yeah, yeah.
And they hired a couple stunt drivers to, like, take some corners, make this look scary. We're going to do some fast cutting and editing. But yeah, a lot of times, like, they'd have to lift their heads up, shift their bodies, and they're like inches from just whack right off their body. So it was sort of it was a very tortured scene, but it was actually, from my research, kind of dangerous to film. And it was also, they filmed it at like 3 a.m. In some parking garage, and it had to close it off. And
And
but
like also I know like it's supposed to be like these guys are like adrenaline junkies, so like anything is good to them. But like they're race car drivers. Maybe have them drive cars.
yeah, that wouldn't have been as cost effective, but yeah. I mean, this episode has, if you just watch the scenes, anything involving racing or dangerous stunt drive, there's massive continuity errors. There's all kinds of problems with this episode, but it just kind of works because that's just the background. It's supposed to look cool, and they're also filming at a real race, which is hard because those guys are not like, it's like, oh, we're making a TV show. Yeah, who cares? Everyone's got cameras pointed at us. Please don't hit my car.
Well, yeah, I think like the concept of this episode works because it's like it's something different. It's not just like, oh, we're just fighting drug dealers again. It's like, here's like the vice in the background of a race weekend. Like that's kind of neat, but just like kind of the
this had nothing to do with the usual. I mean, the only vice here is prostitution. Prostitutes getting murdered.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has nothing to do with like psycho drug importers or anything. It's just like, just kind of a guy. It's just, I just want to race, man. And then his weird dad, who he has a strange related. We'll talk about the conversation him and his dad having to stand for a little bit.
Well, yeah, the dad wins the motorcycle race, and so he's happy about that. But then, like, he gets like message from the rooftop that Danny's wife just gave birth, and so he races off to the hospital.
Yeah.
And has a weird scene with her.
Another great actress, by the way.
She's all right. Well, she's all right
in this episode. Yeah.
Well, she's all right. Which I was wondering is like, why would you give a guy who doesn't act a kissing scene? That seems like the horrible thing to do, unless she was like his actual wife or something. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Because if she was his actual wife, it's like, well, she can act circles around him.
It was an awkward scene, though.
Yeah.
Hey, you had a baby. Yes, I did. That's great. Line.
Danny Jr. Typical Southern race car driver fashion. Just name your kid after you.
Yeah. Just get out there and race, honey. I'll raise the kids.
And then they get like a gift that's like of a burnt out car, which I thought was going to be like he was being framed for murder because like he might have like been like in a cause of somebody's death on the racetrack, but that has nothing to do with the rest of the episode.
Yeah, it's weird. I was wondering, like, did they film that and forget to develop anything before or after, or
unless it was just like them trying to do some weird David Lynch stuff.
It could be.
Let's see what the burnt car represents.
Yeah. It's the fall of Western civilization.
Vice is working the street looking for witnesses. And then we have the IMSA Miami GP starts up. Crockett and Tubbs are talking to Becky, who's like the driver groupie, and then she doesn't want to give up anybody's name because she already got like beat up and sent to the hospital by one of the drivers. That's probably the guy that beat up and killed the hooker. It's like, well, that's
she's
weird.
gonna hold fast to that.
Yeah.
She does say, it's like, you're gonna protect me? Are you gonna protect me a year from now? Are you gonna live at my house? Because it's like, yeah, she's got a point.
Yeah,
she knows the business.
And then like Crockett and Tubbs see like Frank and Danny talking off in the distance, and then we cut to that scene, and like Frank's not sure that Danny's like actually his kid.
I don't know if I'm your father. I don't know, but you gotta concentrate on your race, like, or like, because and I mean the race, the upcoming race. He's like, yeah, all the bombs you could drop on this guy being a murder suspect. His wife just has a kid. I don't know if you're my son, but yeah, keep your head in the game. Don't be a loser. It's like, this is the most stilted conversation I've ever heard, because that guy who plays his dad's actually a real good actor.
Yeah.
And he's just like, Dad, I don't know with all this stuff. He's like, Danny, keep your head in the game. Don't worry about all these dead hookers, whether I'm your dad or not.
We then they're out like on the outskirts of the racetrack, and Tubbs spots the security camera at the deli, and then he gets like tapes for it, and then they zoom in on one of the tapes, like, oh, Frank did it, so like that's wrapped up.
I like how they did that for the audience, because you don't get that kind of camera definition now.
Yeah.
Let alone on VHS tapes from the 80s. Like, because they show the last scene, like, stop there, okay, zoom in. It's like perfectly clearly that his dad's driving that car. It's like, yeah, okay, they're doing that for us. That's fine.
And then Crockett and Tubbs race to the race while the race is ongoing. And then Danny wins the race, and his dad comes in second. And then the cops show up, so Frank just takes off in the race car.
Yep, we're taking the race car down the streets of Miami,
which is kind of fun, but
high-speed chase.
But like, how I know about race cars, that car probably would have ran out of gas. like
yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. It's like, just have a car follow him at a distance, because it will either overheat or run out of gas very quickly. It's not doesn't have like 100 more miles in it.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, Crockett and Tubbs and the whole like police department give chase, and then Frank just like head-on collisions into a wall. The front window breaks and freeze frames, so I'm guessing that's not him making an error. That's his suicide attempt.
Yep, because it just cuts the credits.
Yeah.
It does the stinger, the wow, and then
Michael Mann.
We're assuming he's dead at this point.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought like structurally the episode was okay. It wasn't executed all that well, but
no, I mean, I'm not a continuity and find the errors guy. I don't watch movies for that. There's some whole podcasts that are just dedicated to that. But the continuity errors, especially in the race scene, were so ridiculous. Because I think they were just cutting race footage together, interspersed with the actual actors in cars and stuff.
I mean, it might not have been race footage. They might have just been filming practice.
Yeah. Because there were cool scenes, like guys taking these engines out of cars and with motor lifts and stuff. Like, it was obviously like you were in the zone of like, yeah, this is an actual race event going on. But if you really paid attention to it, you're like, huh, okay. But it's 80s TV.
Yeah.
Remember, this is the highest rated show on television at that time. So it's like, yeah, they just get people on there.
Yeah, like we said, like that the Sullivan guy, he won the Indy 500, so he was a name when we popped in here.
Yeah.
Which I like in the episode. I think I cut it out of the episode like introduction notes. Like it says, and introducing like Danny Sullivan or whatever his name is, and I'm like who's that? And I cut it out because like that means nothing. Well, I looked at his Internet Movie Database, and like it's like he's an actor known for Miami Vice and The Doors. And, like, he's not an actor.
A guy on film in Miami Vice and The Doors. But it was it was popular to have a guy who just won the Indy 500 on Miami Vice. It was cool back then.
Yeah. Racing, the IMSA Racing Series.
Yep.
Which I don't know. I don't know how popular that is or still. I mean, it continues to exist, so, but I'm not sure like if this would be the height of the popularity for IMSA.
Yeah, I mean it's probably for like hardcore race fans know a lot about it.
Yeah.
It's not casual. It's, you never see it on TV. It's like
well, it'd be on like deep cable.
yeah. I mean, it's there, but it's
or the Motor Trend channel or whatever that's called.
Yeah, but it's not like IndyCar or F1 or something.
No.
It's not that well known. Like here, it's IndyCar and NASCAR.
Yeah, I feel like IMSA is like if you know what the World Endurance Championship is, like IMSA is sort of like the American version of that.
Yeah.
Because I believe they also do like really long like endurance races, but
Yeah.
like
The
and
Le
they'll have
Mans style races. Yeah.
yeah, and they'll have multiple drivers and stuff like that, and they have like because I think that's what was going on in that race is like there seemed to be cars that had like very different styles to it because like there's one cars that have like the back end where it has like the oh what do you call it, the diffuser, and then other
Yeah.
cars didn't have a diffuser. They look more like a stock car, and it's like oh they race, they have multiple classes of cars going on in the exact same race at the same time, which that's what endurance championship does, and I believe that's what IMSA does as well.
Oh, okay.
Either that or they're just like cars that had like no chance because they didn't have a diffuser like the other cars did. But anyways, if you like what you heard, and how couldn't you, you can find us at anchor.fm/Verhoeven Effect. You can also go to verhoeveneffect.com. That'll take you to the same place. You can wherever platform you're listening to us, you can rate our podcast if they allow such a thing. You can rate us whatever you want, but the only thing that the algorithm listens to is the highest rating. So remember, you control the algorithm doesn't control you. We also have listener support at anchor.fm/Verhoeven Effect. You can support us at a monthly stipend of either 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99 if you so wish. You can find us at on Twitter at Verhoeven Effect, Facebook Verhoeven Effect, and on YouTube you can find us on American Greed Factory. You can watch both that show and this show live and unedited. And we also have t-shirts at belowthecollar.com/greed factory. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Colin.
I'm Nathan.
Goodbye, America.